Be me, Steve. Had a girlfriend, Regina. We were together for a long time, maybe 5 years. It was good, you know? Really good. We weren't one of those dramatic couples. We just fit. We liked the same dumb movies, could spend a whole weekend just hanging out at home doing nothing, and it never felt boring. She was smart, funny, and I honestly thought I was going to marry her. We had plans, or at least, I thought we did. Talked about getting a bigger place, maybe getting a dog, all the normal stuff you talk about when you see a future with someone. I felt like the luckiest guy in the world. She was my best friend. Then, sometime last year, things started to change. It wasn't a big sudden thing. It was slow, like a leak you don't notice until the carpet is soaked. She started spending a lot more time online, on these specific forums and social media groups. At first, I didn't think anything of it. Everyone has their hobbies. But the way she talked started to change. She began using words I'd never heard from her before. Words like emotional labor, patriarchal structures, and problematic. Everything became problematic. I remember holding a door open for her, something I'd done 1,000 times. She stopped and gave me this weird look, told me I didn't need to perform these outdated gestures of chivalry, said it was rooted in the idea that women are weak. I was just trying to be nice. Another time, we went out to eat for her birthday. I paid, like I always did for special occasions. On the way home, she was silent. When I asked what was wrong, she went on this long tangent about how me paying for her reinforces financial dependency and perpetuates toxic power dynamics. I was just trying to treat my girlfriend on her birthday. It felt like I was constantly being tested, and I never knew the right answers. The things she used to love about me were now evidence of my unexamined privilege, or toxic masculinity. My calm, quiet nature was no longer a good thing. It was me being emotionally unavailable. My desire to fix problems around the house was me asserting dominance in the domestic sphere. I felt like I was going crazy. Our old inside jokes were now microaggressions. The movies we used to watch together were now torn apart for their problematic themes. She wasn't fun to be around anymore. Every conversation felt like a lecture. I tried to talk to her about it. I told her I felt like she didn't even like me anymore, that she was looking for reasons to be angry with me. She turned it around on me, of course, said I was being defensive because I was afraid of confronting my own ingrained toxicity, claimed I was gaslighting her by questioning her newfound awareness. It was impossible to have a real conversation. It was like she had a script, and any deviation from it was proof that I was the bad guy. I started to just shut up. It was easier than having every word I said dissected and used against me. The house became quiet, tense. We were living like roommates who secretly hated each other. I missed her, the real her. I kept hoping the old Regina would come back. I thought maybe it was just a phase. I was wrong. It was about to get much, much worse. One evening, a few months into this new reality, she sat me down. She had that look on her face she got when she was about to deliver a verdict. She told me we needed to have a serious talk about the structure of our relationship. My stomach dropped. I thought she was going to break up with me. In a way, what she said was worse. She told me she had been doing a lot of reading and thinking. She had come to the conclusion that monogamy was a patriarchal construct. She said it was designed for the ownership of women, a tool to control their bodies and limit their potential. She said that for us to have an evolved and healthy relationship, we needed to deconstruct these toxic ideas. I just stared at her, having no idea where this was going. Then she said it. She wanted us to be in an open, polyamorous relationship. I was speechless. I think I just sat there blinking for a full minute. I told her no, absolutely not. I told her I believed in commitment, in building a life with one person. That wasn't some toxic idea. It was what I wanted. She shook her head, looking at me with this pitying expression, like I was a child who didn't understand. She explained that my reaction was textbook male possessiveness, that my fear was rooted in ego and insecurity. She insisted this wasn't about wanting to be with other people, but about liberating our relationship from oppressive social norms. It was the most insane, detached, academic-sounding breakup speech I'd ever heard. Except she wasn't breaking up with me. She was changing all the rules and framing it as an act of enlightenment. We argued for what felt like hours. Every point I made, she had a prepackaged counter-argument for. My love for her was possessiveness. My desire for loyalty was insecurity. My vision for our future was a monogamous prison. Finally, she laid down the ultimatum. Either I embraced this new, evolved path with her, or I was admitting that I was too unreconstructed to be a partner for a conscious woman like her. Basically, agree to this, or you're a toxic caveman and we're done. I felt trapped. I still loved the woman she used to be. I was terrified of losing her, even this new, cold version of her. A part of me thought, maybe if I just go along with this, she'll see it's a terrible idea and things will go back to normal. It was a stupid hope, born of desperation. So, against every instinct in my body, I agreed. I felt sick to my stomach. The next day, I talked to my best friend. I told him everything. He just listened, his expression getting more and more horrified. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he just said, "Steve, she's not liberating you. She's giving herself a hall pass to cheat and making you feel like a bad guy if you complain. This is the most messed up thing I've ever heard. You need to leave." I know he was right, but I was a coward. I couldn't do it. I told him I had to at least try. He told me I was an idiot, but that he'd be there for me when it all blew up in my face. I wish I had listened to him. The change was immediate. It felt like a switch had been flipped. Regina, who had been lecturing me about the evils of monogamy, suddenly seemed very excited about her newfound freedom. It took her less than a week. She came home one afternoon and cheerfully announced she had a date that Friday. Just like that. She told me his name, some guy she'd met in one of her online groups. She said he was incredibly aligned with her values and was also ethically non-monogamous. I didn't know what to say. I just nodded. That Friday, I watched her get ready. She put on a dress I loved, did her hair, put on makeup. She looked beautiful, and she was doing it all for someone else. She left, telling me not to wait up. I sat in our apartment, the one we'd built a life in, and I'd never felt more alone. This became the new normal. Regina had a whole new social life that didn't include me. She was always out with this new guy. She'd post pictures of them online, at rallies or art exhibits, with long captions about community and radical connection. She treated our relationship like a home base, and her relationship with him like a permanent vacation. When she was home, she was distant and distracted, always on her phone, smiling at texts that weren't from me. I was demoted. I went from being her partner to being her roommate. The worst part was, I wasn't allowed to be upset about it. One night, she came home very late, smelling like wine and some other guy's cologne. I couldn't help it. I told her it hurt me. She sighed, like I was a whining child. She sat me down and gave me another lecture. Told me I needed to do the work to interrogate my jealousy. She said my feelings were my own responsibility, and that it was unfair of me to put my emotional baggage on her. She made me feel like my pain was a personal failing, so I stopped talking about it. I just swallowed it. I felt myself shutting down, becoming numb. I was a ghost in my own life. Regina had a younger sister, Ava. They were very different. Where Regina was intense and ideological, Ava was calm, down to earth, and kind of goofy. I'd always gotten along with her. She never seemed to buy into Regina's new personality. I remember being at a family dinner with them a while back. Regina was dominating the conversation, talking about her polyamory and how it was a form of feminist praxis. Her parents looked confused and uncomfortable. I was just sitting there, trying to be invisible. I saw Ava looking at me from across the table with this sad, knowing look in her eyes. Later, while Regina was holding court in the living room, Ava found me in the kitchen. She just came up to me and quietly asked, "Hey, are you doing okay?" It was such a simple question, but no one had asked me that in months. My throat got tight. I think she saw the answer in my face. I just said, "It's been rough." She nodded. "What she's doing is not right, Steve. It's not progressive. It's just cruel." Hearing someone else say it, someone who was her own sister, it was like a dam broke inside me. It made me feel like I wasn't crazy. My pain was real. It was valid. After that night, Ava and I started talking more. She would text me every now and then, just to check in. "How's your week going?" "Thinking of you." Little things that meant the world. It was a lifeline. One weekend, Regina was away on a trip with her new boyfriend. A polyamorous retreat, she called it. I was home alone, feeling lower than ever. My phone buzzed. It was Ava. "Regina's out of town, right? You shouldn't be alone. Want to go grab some food?" I almost said no. I didn't want to be a burden, but the thought of sitting in that empty apartment all night was suffocating. So I said yes. We went to a simple diner, and we just talked. For the first time in what felt like a year, I had a real conversation. I didn't have to watch my words. I didn't have to worry about saying something problematic. She listened. I told her everything. How it started, how Regina had changed, how she'd cornered me into this arrangement, how lonely and erased I felt. I didn't realize how much I'd been holding in until it all came pouring out. Ava didn't interrupt. She just listened patiently, her expression full of empathy. When I was done, she reached across the table and put her hand on my arm. She said, "I'm so sorry, Steve. You don't deserve any of this. My sister, she's lost her way. She's so caught up in her ideas that she's forgotten how to treat people with basic kindness." She told me stories from their childhood, how Regina was always looking for a cause, something to make her feel special and superior. How she would get obsessed with something and make it her entire personality, looking down on anyone who didn't join her. It all started to make sense. This wasn't about genuine belief. It was about ego. Being with Ava felt easy. It felt normal. We laughed. We made stupid jokes. I felt like myself again, a version of me I thought was gone forever. We started hanging out more regularly after that. Whenever Regina was busy with her other life, which was most of the time, I'd call Ava. We'd go for walks, watch movies, play board games. It was completely innocent. It was a friendship. But it was the deepest, most supportive friendship I had. She was the only person who saw what I was going through. She was the only one who cared. She never once spoke badly about Regina in a malicious way. She was just sad for her, and sad for me. Her presence in my life was like an anchor in a storm. It was around this time that I realized something important. I wasn't in love with Regina anymore. The woman I loved was gone, and the person who was filling the massive hole she'd left in my life was her sister. I wasn't acting on it. I wasn't even fully admitting it to myself yet. But I knew. I knew that the connection I had with Ava, this simple, honest, caring friendship, was more real than anything I had left with Regina. I started to feel a little bit of hope again. Not hope for my relationship with Regina, but hope for myself. Maybe I could get through this. Maybe I could be happy again. One day, I had a particularly bad day. Just one of those days where everything goes wrong. I came home, hoping to just collapse on the couch. Regina was there, but she was on a video call with her activist friends. She barely looked at me. just waved me away impatiently. I went to my room and just sat there, feeling the weight of everything. My phone vibrated. It was a text from Ava. "Everything okay? You've been quiet today." It was like she had a sixth sense. I texted her back, telling her I'd had a terrible day. Her reply came instantly. "I'm coming over. I'll pick up food." I told her she didn't have to, that Regina was home. She wrote back, "I don't care. You need a friend. Be there in 20. When she arrived, she had 2 bags of my favorite takeout. Regina was still on her call. Ava just gave her a polite wave and came straight to my room. We sat on the floor and ate, talking in low voices. She made me laugh. She listened to me vent. She made me feel like a person again. And as she was leaving, she gave me a hug. A real, genuine hug. It lasted maybe 5 seconds. But in that moment, I felt more connection and warmth than I had from Regina in over a year. That was the turning point. I knew I couldn't live like this anymore. I was done being a ghost in my own life. I was done being a footnote in Regina's ideological experiment. Something had to change, and it had to change soon. I just didn't realize that the choice was about to be made for me. I think Regina started to notice the change in me. I wasn't moping around the apartment anymore. I wasn't quiet and withdrawn. When she was home, I was polite but distant. I didn't ask her where she'd been or what she was doing. I had my own life back, a life that revolved around my friendship with Ava. Regina didn't like that. I think, on some level, she needed me to be miserable. My sadness was proof that I still loved her, that I was waiting for her. My indifference was something she couldn't control. The air in the apartment grew thick with a new kind of tension. It wasn't just my quiet despair anymore. It was her suspicion. She started asking me questions. Where was I going? Who was I with? It was ironic. She wanted complete freedom for herself, but she wanted a full report from me. I just gave her vague answers. Out with friends. Just getting some air. I didn't feel like I owed her an explanation for anything. She was the one who had dissolved the boundaries of our relationship. I was just living in the new world she'd created. The final explosion happened on a Saturday. Regina was supposed to be out all day at some workshop. Ava came over. We were planning to just watch a movie marathon, something dumb and fun. We weren't doing anything wrong. We were sitting on opposite ends of the couch, eating pizza out of the box, and laughing at a terrible action movie from the 90s. It was the most relaxed and happy I had felt in our apartment in over a year. And then the front door opened. It was Regina. Her workshop had ended early. She stopped dead in the doorway, staring at the scene. Me, Ava, pizza, laughing. For a second, nobody moved. The smile on Ava's face faded. I saw a flicker of confusion in Regina's eyes, and then it was replaced by something dark, something I hadn't seen in a very long time. Pure, undiluted jealousy. She didn't say anything to Ava. She just looked at me. Her voice was quiet, but it was shaking with rage. "What is she doing here?" Ava started to get up, looking uncomfortable. "Regina, we were just watching a movie." Regina ignored her completely. Her eyes were locked on me. "I asked you a question, Steve." I stood up. I wasn't going to let her talk to Ava like that. "She's my friend. We're hanging out." She let out this short, sharp laugh. It was a nasty sound. "Your friend? You're hanging out with my sister? Behind my back?" Ava stepped forward. "Regina, that's not fair. You were out. We weren't hiding anything." "You stay out of this," Regina snapped at her. "This is between me and my boyfriend." The word boyfriend sounded so absurd coming from her lips. I looked at her. Her whole enlightened, progressive persona had vanished. This was the old Regina, the insecure, possessive one she claimed to have deconstructed. I told Ava that maybe it was best if she left, that I would handle it. She looked worried, but she nodded and quickly gathered her things. She gave me a quick, concerned glance and then she was gone. The moment the door closed, Regina turned on me. Her face was twisted with fury. "How could you?" she screamed. "With my own sister, in our home!" She was pacing back and forth, vibrating with anger. "Are you sleeping with her? Tell me the truth." And that was it. That was the moment everything snapped into focus for me. The sheer, staggering hypocrisy of it all. I didn't yell. I didn't raise my voice. I just felt this strange, cold calm wash over me. I had no more fear. I had no more desperation. I was just done. "No, Regina," I said, my voice perfectly level. "We're not. We're friends. She's been my friend when I had no one else." "Friends? Do you think I'm stupid? I see the way you look at her. I see the way you text all the time. You betrayed me." I just looked at her. I let her words hang in the air. Betrayal. It was the richest thing I'd ever heard. I waited for her to stop yelling, to run out of breath. When she finally paused, staring at me with hate-filled eyes, I began to speak, and I calmly and quietly took her entire world apart. "You want to talk about betrayal, Regina? Let's talk about betrayal." She opened her mouth to interrupt, but I kept going, my voice never rising. "You were the one who decided monogamy was a prison. You were the one who came to me and said our relationship was a patriarchal construct that needed to be dismantled. I took a step closer. You were the one who gave me an ultimatum, an open relationship, or I was a toxic caveman. I didn't want this. I begged you not to do this, but you didn't care what I wanted." Her face was starting to change. The anger was being replaced by confusion. She wasn't used to me fighting back. "So I agreed," I continued. "I agreed because I was a fool who still loved you and hoped you would come to your senses. And what did you do with your newfound freedom? You found another guy in less than a week." "That's different," she stammered. "We had rules. We were supposed to be honest." "Rules?" I almost laughed. "Your only rule was that I wasn't allowed to be hurt. Every time I tried to tell you I was in pain, you told me it was my emotional baggage. You told me to interrogate my jealousy. You dismissed my feelings as toxic masculinity while you were out building a second life with someone else." I could see the gears turning in her head. She had no counter-arguments. I was using her own words, her own logic, and throwing it right back in her face. "I was alone, Regina. I was completely and utterly alone in the relationship you designed. I was miserable, and you didn't care. You were too busy being evolved." "And then there was Ava," I said, my voice softening just a little. "Your sister. The only person in the world who looked at me and asked if I was okay. The only person who saw me as a human being and not as an ideological project." Tears were welling up in her eyes now, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of frustration. She was losing. She listened to me. She supported me. She reminded me what it felt like to have a real, genuine connection with someone. The kind of connection you and I used to have before you traded it all in for a bunch of trendy words and a hall pass. I stopped, standing right in front of her. "You don't get to be angry, Regina. You don't get to stand here and scream about betrayal. You set the house on fire, but you're mad at me for finding my way out of the smoke. You made the rules. I just finally started playing by them." She was speechless. She just stared at me, her mouth slightly open. The entire foundation of her moral high ground had crumbled into dust, and in that moment of silence, I delivered the final blow. "So, to answer your question," I said, my voice clear and steady. "No, I'm not sleeping with your sister, but I am in love with her." The color drained from her face. "And I'm done here," I said. "I'm done with this experiment. I'm done with you." I turned around and walked into our bedroom. I pulled out a suitcase and started packing my things. She followed me, stumbling. "Steve, wait," she pleaded. "We can fix this. We can go back. We can close the relationship. It was a mistake." I didn't even look at her. "It's too late, Regina. You showed me who you are, and worse, you showed me who I am without you, and I like that person a lot more. I packed my clothes, my books, the few things in that apartment that still felt like they belonged to me. She just stood in the doorway, crying. It was a pathetic sight. All her strength, all her ideological certainty had evaporated. She was just a girl who had made a terrible, selfish mistake and couldn't undo it. When I was done, I walked to the front door. I paused with my hand on the knob. I looked back at her one last time. You wanted to deconstruct our relationship, I said. Congratulations. You succeeded. And then I walked out and closed the door behind me. I didn't have a plan. I just got in my car and drove. After a few minutes, I pulled over and called Ava. I told her what happened, that I had left Regina, that I had told her everything. She was quiet for a long time. Then she asked me where I was going. I told her I didn't know. Come to my place, she said. You can stay here for as long as you need to. And so I did. Over the next few days, my phone blew up with texts from Regina. First they were angry and accusatory. Then they became desperate and pleading. She said she was sorry, that she had been wrong, that she loved me. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. She tried calling Ava, over and over. Ava finally answered and told her, calmly but firmly, to stop. She told Regina that she had done this to herself, that her cruelty and selfishness had destroyed everything. She told her she needed to leave both of us alone. After that, the calls and texts stopped. I heard from a mutual friend a few weeks later. Apparently, Regina's other partner, the ethically non-monogamous one, had bailed the second he heard about the family drama. He wasn't interested in dealing with a real, messy human crisis. He was only there for the fun and the convenient label. So Regina was alone. Truly alone. In the apartment we were supposed to build a life in. She had chased an ideology so hard that she had ended up with nothing. No boyfriend, no sister, no trendy side piece. Just four walls and the echo of her own bad decisions. Poetic justice, I guess. As for me and Ava, we took things slow. We had to navigate the wreckage that Regina had left behind. But our friendship, the one that had been forged in that terrible time, was strong. It grew into something more. Something quiet and stable and real. Something built on respect and kindness, not on theories and ultimatums. It's peaceful now. I feel like I can breathe again. Sometimes I think back to the person I was when I was with Regina, walking on eggshells, filled with anxiety, feeling like I was always wrong. I don't recognize that person anymore. She thought she was setting herself free. But in the end, the only person she really liberated was me.